generally, boys, Croatia deserved to be in the final?
Yeah, I think, absolutely, and there's no doubt about it. Took the game by the scruff of the neck after about 20 minutes. Unfortunately, England found its ceiling tonight. This was the toughest game, and they were outclassed, particularly in the middle of the park, which is something we talked about. They would have to get to grips with Brozovic, but more importantly, Rakitic and Modric. They didn't do that. I was surprised by, once the tide started to turn from England looking comfortable to Croatia starting to dominate, then the goal from Perisic, the whole thing was, the pendulum was completely swinging in one way, and I was just really surprised by England's substitutions, because we were sitting, Robbo and I, talking about it. It was like for like. You know, it was a striker for a striker, Rashford for Sterling. It was a wing-back for a wing-back. It was a holding midfielder for a holding midfielder. But it never changed the dynamic of the game. That didn't alter. The personnel change didn't alter the shape, so therefore didn't alter Croatia's dominance of the game.
We'll talk about England in a little more detail, but I just want to give Croatia some credit. Behind against Denmark, behind against Russia, behind against England. Played 120-minute matches going into this game. Another 120 matches today. This is a team that has really got a never-say-die attitude.
And you have to give a little bit of credit to the coach as well. He was brave to start with. He said to his two wide players, you stay up the field with Mandzukic. We'll let Trippier go forward. And Trippier had a freedom of the park in the first half to get crosses in. But as the game wore on, he forced England back. He forced Trippier back. He forced Young back. And then it enabled Croatia to dominate that midfield area. They could get their fullbacks into play. They were creating 2v1s in the wide area. And as Craig said, Gareth Southgate didn't do anything to change it, whereas Dalic got all his tactical changes right. I mean, he was the dominant coach in that game today, and that's a major blow for Gareth Southgate.
At the same time, though, as Dan rightly points out, you have a Croatia team who's played all these extra minutes coming into the stage of the tournament. And yet, over the 120 minutes, they seem to be the fit of the two teams. They were the ones who were prepared to press the opposition high up the field and make them work to get anything out of this game. England were devoid of ideas and in truth, devoid of running. And there was only one team that truly deserved to win this game.
One of the reasons they didn't have to run, Croatia didn't have to run so far because they were tactically set up much better. Whereas England's players, we talked about Lingard and Dele Alli throughout the game having poor games. The reason they had poor games is because they had to do too much work. They were meant to run forward and get in alongside Harry Kane at times. Then they were having to mark in midfield, and when the ball was switched out, they had to get out to the fullbacks as well. Dele Alli couldn't get near anyone. He was going to close somebody else down. Then it was going square. He had to come back infield. And the same with Lingard. They had to run so much without any joy whatsoever about getting close to the ball.
International football, particularly at this level, particularly at World Cups or European Championships, is ball retention. I was shocked how many long balls this England team tried to play today. And I was shocked how many times the first instinct from a midfielder or a wide player or a wing-back was to go back. Was to go back to Maguire, was to go back to Stone.
But then it would go back all the way.
And then it would go all the way back to Pickford, who, by the way, in the first half looked really comfortable in the ball. He took a few chances. But then as the game wore on, those balls going back ended up just being hoofs up the field. And I must say as well, Vida, although the service wasn't great to him, I thought Vida and Lovren, with Brozovic in front, completely snuffed out Harry Kane. The other side of the coin is and I must point this out about Croatia, and I think I said it the other day, is they finished second to Iceland in qualification, in the World Cup qualification. They sacked their coach before the penultimate game against the Ukraine, which they had to win to get into the playoffs, and then they dispatched a very average Greece team. And now they're in a World Cup final. This has been a heck of a journey. It's not been easy to get here, far from it, but I tell you what, they're going to be second favourites against France. But they got some guts.
I have to say, once England get the goal and they start to drop off the and play the ball back, as Craig has pointed out, initially I didn't have much of an issue with it. You know, Croatia are now going to have to step up. They are going to have to take chances, and they will leave room in behind for Raheem Sterling with his pace maybe to exploit. The issue is, once you don't score after that 20 minutes, Lingard had an opportunity, Harry Kane had one, the flag went up later, I know that. But once you didn't find the back of the net and you didn't double your lead, then all of a sudden Croatia started to take control of the game and England couldn't shift out of that thinking. And for me, this is the amazing thing for England over the course of this game, failing to identify basics. Basics in that we're losing this midfield. We've got to start to get the likes of Dele Alli, of Henderson, just to put their foot on the ball, get some touches, and not allow Croatia to dictate everything about this game. On the other end of the pitch, you've got Subasic, who comes into this game injured, looked injured for the Trippier goal. Trippier might, whether he was 100% fit or not, maybe he wasn't going to get there, but you knew he had an issue.
Right.
You saw him go down against Russia coming to take a cross ball. Yet between the two keepers, it's Pickford who's having to leave his line and come for a cross. At no point in this game at all did England at least sling token balls in just to make Subasic come out. And they never tested and probed in the simplest of manners, and the game just got away with it.
I think England, and it's a strong word to use, I think they bottled it. Some of the England players bottled it. When it was being played into midfield, they didn't have the courage to get on the half turn and play the next ball forward. That's why they played back. Not because that was the instructions to play back. They lost their ability to get turned and play forward. The centre-halves, we talked about John Stones being controlling in most of the games. Suddenly he lost control. Suddenly he didn't want to play that ball into midfield. Suddenly he didn't want to step out from the back. He was going back to the goalkeeper. It's the easy pass. Let the goalkeeper deal with it, and then the ball's going forward, and Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling won't get able to
But why would you be like that when you're 1-0 up, you score an early goal? That should be the perfect opportunity then to go forward.
But I think they got into easy street a little bit, and I thought it was too easy to go back the way. It was too easy to go back to Pickford. This is not a bashing of England, far from it. This is an analysis.
Well, doing a fairly good job of doing it.
Well, no, it's an analysis of how a system can work, and if it is working against the poorer teams, but when you have to change it against clever players, and not, you know, we got Perisic and Mandzukic and Rebic all playing at a great level, and Rakitic and Modric, Brozovic playing at Inter Milan. You got to. It's a World Cup semi-final. What's been good for you at one point isn't necessarily good for you at this point.
The difference between being a good manager, which Gareth Southgate has proved in this tournament, he's a good manager in terms of getting the spirit right,
Sure.
managing the players, getting the right temperament around the ground, being calm and composed. It's a massive difference to being a good understander of the game and a good tactician. And today I thought, we were screaming at the telly, he's got to change the system now. He's got to make sure they stop the wide balls going, leave one up front and get a midfield five. Because at the moment, you're being outplayed in those areas. The switcher play keeps happening. And they're going to get forward time after time. And your front two aren't working together. You're trying to get Raheem Sterling in behind from balls from 60 yards away. You need to get closer to it and then roll balls down the side. He had to change the system. He didn't read the game. He made substitutions that didn't change the course of the match. He made just change for like changes.
You saw me as a Scotsman. You saw me, and I was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated because it was like I can't get my head around why you're not changing. We can all see the issue. I felt sorry for Jordan Henderson. He's had a season. He's played in the Champions League final. He's trying to hold that midfield together in front, but he's got two runners alongside him. And Dele Alli, who didn't look particularly fit, and Jesse Lingard, the two runners. One likes to get in the box, the other one likes to get in the box. And Croatia, they've got a holding midfielder in Brozovic, and you've got two passers.
Yeah.
You've got Modric and you get Rakitic, and they're clever and they keep the ball. And I just couldn't get my head around why England and their coaches, the people beside Gareth Southgate, who, by the way, in a pressurised situation, when his head's maybe spinning, 2 or 3 people to say to him, listen, we need to change this.
And what Danic did, he had the way he wanted to play, which was the two wingers high up the field. And they kept on and getting the fullbacks high, creating 2-1s and getting crosses into the box. In the first half, it didn't work for him because he had Mandzukic in the box against 3 England centre-halves. They never looked like scoring in that first half. But in the second half, he's obviously said to Rakitic and Modric, make more forward runs when the ball goes wide. Don't always come deep with the ball. You get yourself in the box. So suddenly, they were occupying the defenders. And the goal came because Perisic made the run from one wide area into the box. And that's probably the only mistake that Walker made throughout the game. He got beaten for that first ball.
The challenge, though, Craig, and you talk about why doesn't Gareth Southgate change things. As this game is going on, and as Stu Riley points out, we're kind of shouting at the TV. At the same time, you're going through the list. You're going through the subs that Gareth Southgate has at his disposal. And there is nobody who can step in and take control, regain control of that midfield, offer anything a whole lot different. Now, yes, Gareth Southgate maybe showed his own inexperience in some of these substitutions, but at the same time, I think he's a little bit hamstrung in who he can call on.
Well, he's got a couple of... I mean, if you want to get a bit more control in the midfield, you suppose you've got Loftus-Cheek and you've got Delph that can come in and at least sort of match up.
Or
But
when
instead
he brought Rashford on, he could have played him in a slightly
Wide.
wider area to stop the fullback getting out, and then join in
But,
with
you know,
Harry Kane from there.
But for me,
I know what you're saying. It's not a really deep
correct
squad.
And as much as Kane was an absolute disaster on the day, at least Raheem Sterling gave you an option,
Yeah.
gave you an outboard.
Correct.
Kane wasn't giving you anything in behind. When he was coming into feet, he was giving it away. He was having to drop deep just to try to get some kind of a touch on the ball. I thought that was a wrong substitution again in taking off Sterling. I think use the pace. That was the only chance you had against a Croatian back line who knew what they were doing and had all the answers. And with Kane in this kind of form, weren't
It would
that
have been a
bothered.
brave manager to take off Harry Kane, your captain. And remember, you could be going into
Well, that's
penalties.
the only-
Harry Kane is going to take your penalties.
Totally agree.
Well, that's the only reason he stayed on.
Yeah.
I mean, really and truly.
What was wrong with Harry Kane today?
Well, I thought Vida and Lovren played him well.
He had that chance, didn't he, which eventually was given offside, but
Yes.
I think it would have
He
gone
had a
to VAR
header.
if
He had a
it was
very
scored.
good header that he put wide as well.
He's been great from set pieces in this tournament. He's not been scintillating from open play. But maybe that's a circumstance of some of the teams have played against where they've all played with.
I think he looks tired in
behind
this
the
tournament. When Harry Kane is fully fit, he's much quicker than he actually looks. Today he looked cumbersome, he couldn't drive away from people, he didn't actually hold up the play. And when he got touched, he went down quite easily because he knew he couldn't get to the ball.
And he seemed to be playing quite deep. Like,
Yeah, that
had
was,
to
I
come
think that was a
deep.
plan. He was meant to play deep,
And Sterling
Sterling
was
was
in
meant to
behind.
make the forward runs, but I'm not sure it suited him coming so
the
deep.
truth
The
is,
reason this is more disappointing for England is because, and I mentioned it with Belgium yesterday, because it's an anomaly.
Yes.
You know, we talked about it. First time no Argentina,
Yeah.
Brazil or Germany in the semi-finals. Spain are out. Italy are not even here. You know, Belgium knocked Brazil out. Then you come through, and the anomaly as well is the route. I mean, there's been some easy routes for some teams that have won the World Cup, but this was a particularly easy route that England had. And then you get Croatia, who it's a 50-50 split in this game probably. The bookies had England slight favourites, but it's close. Strengths and weaknesses, but it's not the France. It's not the France-Belgium other semi-final. So all these anomalies, I mean, they might never, ever, ever be a better chance for England.
Yeah,
Before
no.
the tournament, if you
That
looked
was
at
it.
No chance.
If you looked at every team England were playing, apart from the Belgium game, you'd say they're favourites to win the game.
Yeah.
So they haven't achieved more than you would expect from them. They've gone further, but against the teams that they've been playing, you expect them to beat Tunisia, you'd expect them to beat Panama, you'd expect them to beat Sweden, you'd expect them to beat Colombia if you said it a one-off game.
Yeah.
And you'd think it's a 50-50 between them and Croatia. So they haven't overachieved. They've done what you expect them
I
to do.
suppose the thing is they've underachieved so much in
Yeah.
previous tournaments.
Yes.
Iceland,
Yes.
Costa Rica
Well-
not getting out of the group. Then that's set the bar so low.
Listen,
Yeah.
So hence what's happened.
Yeah.
You've got into
You
a
can only beat
semi-final
what's
of
in
a World
front of you.
Cup.
And,
And
they've shown a good
history-
spirit, and they've played some good football as well at times.
History will remember them getting to the semi-finals.
Look,
Not necessarily it was an easy route.
No, absolutely. No, listen, there's a lot to these players have enhanced their reputation. I mean, Pickford in goal's been absolutely magnificent. The back three played
Yeah.
well. I mean, Stone switched off at
It's
the
been
end.
Trippier's tournament, isn't it?
Yeah,
Trippier
Trippier's been
had to go off injured, and they were down to 10 men. You know, maybe Rose, if he'd played more at Tottenham, would have been playing regular down that left flank to give you a natural left foot. I don't buy into all the Sterling criticism, but I'm sure he might come in for some. I just felt the difference was the quality in the middle of the park, and when you can't control the middle of the park at this level, then you're asking for trouble.
The truth is, again, like the conversation we were having yesterday about Belgium, after you get this far in the tournament, to see a performance like this, it just feels like a letdown. It's desperately disappointing to see them go out in this manner without that much of a fight. And in the end, yes, I'm sure the record books will be very kind to this England team, getting to a semi-final.
Yeah.
Harry Kane may yet finish up as a Golden Boot winner. I think some reputations were enhanced. But if you look a little bit closer, you can't help but feel let down. And yes, maybe Harry Kane looked tired today, but I felt there was a swagger about him, about his play very early on. That if you look at the numbers, and maybe it isn't warranted. He scored 6 goals this tournament, 3 of them penalties, 2 headers against Tunisia, 1 come off his heel that he didn't know anything about. And that's what Harry Kane, who we coming into this tournament, we're kind of saying, is amongst the best strikers in world football. That's all he has to show in what has been an easy route for England up to this point.
In some sense, and this is kind of weird, but I think I've seen this written, in some sense from Croatia in some quarters. There's almost a sense that they didn't want them to do as well, to paper over the cracks that they have internally, supposedly. But I just go back to the fact these guys, this is a country of, I think under 4 million.
Just over 4.
Yeah.
Just over 4.
Around 4 million people. Before somebody jumps down my throat again that they did last week, well, does that mean India and China should be doing better because they've got a
They should
whatever
be
the
doing better,
population?
India and China.
But it's a different kettle. It's a different story because, the game's been played in Croatia for much longer. These guys are all playing for such a small country around some of the biggest clubs in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a mentality that's that fighting spirit, determined mentality. They've got quality. They're very, very strong on the ball. You look at Rebic, you look at Perisic, you look at Mandzukic. They can filter that in with Rakitic, who's got a bit of everything, with Modric. They're not the greatest centre-backs of back four, but they're organised. And I just think it's huge, huge credit. We're talking about a country that was once part of the Yugoslavia, and when it all split up, these countries went independent. They found it difficult, and to find herself in a World Cup semi-final in France in '98, and now in a World Cup final is, I think, an amazing achievement.
So it begs the question, like, you obviously say all that, so then why did you back England yesterday?
Because I tell you why I backed England, because I felt England were fresher, I felt Croatia because of the games they played, and I felt England would be clever enough to nullify the Croatian midfield. As soon as that didn't happen, alarm bells started
And I'd
to ring.
seen in the other games, Croatia hadn't dominated midfield in the last two games, Denmark and Russia. Their wide players, Rebic and Perisic, had followed the opposition's fullbacks back. So the coach thought, I'm not going to go through that again. I'm going to be more positive. I'm going to make sure they play higher up the field. I know the system that England play. We're going to keep switching the play. I didn't think he had it in him, but he made the right tactical calls.
That's his thing. I was thinking we saw the best of Croatia in the group stages against a Argentina team that were all at sea.
Yeah.
And then they come into the knockout round of the competition, and they struggled. Go 120 minutes. Russia, who came into this tournament as the lowest ranked hosts in the history of the tournament, as far if memory serves me correctly, put up a better fight than we saw from England today.
But England were winning for, the opening first half.
Oh, yeah, they scored in the 5th minute from a set piece and then offered absolutely nothing. I was willing to give them a pass in that they were inviting Croatia on just after going ahead in an effort to get Sterling in behind, as I said. But at no point did that change. At no point, once Croatia started to get a hold of the ball and start to pass around, did England change anything. Once they realized that Croatia were not willing just to drop off and press high up, nothing changed. Everything was go back until we get an opportunity to hit it into space for Sterling or into the feet of Sterling, which, unless you're playing Sterling in channels and in spaces that he can run in behind defences, he's not going to give you an awful lot with 60-yard balls.
To football that we saw from England a long time ago. You were desperate for England to win the game. So the only time we ever got excited, or you got excited, was when they got a free kick.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well,
every
that's
time
been
there was a free
successful
kick.
all this
And there's nothing
tournament.
wrong with being successful at free kicks. That's a great attribute to have. But you can't rely solely on set play.
There was two things disappointed me from England today, and we've talked about Croatia and great credit to them, but there was two things that disappointed me from England, and it's not individual players, because individual players can have bad games.
Sure.
It was the lack of flexibility to the Croatian tactics. I suppose it was three things then. It was the changes that Gareth made, and the third thing, and it was almost the most disappointing, was how many times they hoofed the ball up, and I mean hoofed the ball up the field. So as Kane would win a header or try and win a header and there was nobody around him, or they hoofed it in the corner, it was like going, at times, and we've not seen this a lot from him, at times it was like going back to the pre-Premier League era of the 1980s, hoofing it forward into the channel.
But that's going back to that word safe again,
That's
isn't
what
it?
disappointing.
So the players couldn't create, and this is what I've always had a slight issue with Gareth Southgate. He says we want to play out from the back, we want to be composed on the ball,
right.
And I've always said, but do you know how to do it? Do you know how to create space so that you can thread balls into the front players? Because that's the reason you play out from the back, to get better quality into the front. England was sort of half being composed on the ball, playing into midfield, it's coming back, they're going back to the goalkeeper. Now the ball's coming from 60, 70 yards away. You might as well start off by going longer if you're going to do that. And so there was no real quality. They didn't seem to know how to get the ball, roll the balls into Sterling, roll the balls into Harry Kane, switch the play and get their fullbacks or wing-backs higher up the field. Only in that first 20 minutes when Perisic said to Trippier, you can go forward, I'll let you go, and England got it out to him a couple of times and he got a couple of good crosses in. But apart from that, England lost the ability to pass it into the front.
There is no doubt the more accomplished side is in the final.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to paint it than Croatia are tactically more. The players and the manager are tactically more astute at the moment to big game football, and and it's been a great run for England. But I think that's where they came a cropper today. You got these guys who are playing some of them in Champions League finals almost every year.
Sure.
So that's the big disappointment for England. It's been a great story for them. They go away, they brush themselves down. I'm sure everybody will got a pat on the back, but the anomaly I talked about with they run to the final and the teams that are there, boy, it's got to hurt.
Let's take a look at some England marks, shall we, Robbo? I imagine they're not particularly high. I'm intrigued to see what maybe you gave Harry Kane. Harry Kane coming in at a 5.
Yeah, well, the reason I gave Walker an 8 is apart from the goal, the first goal, where he didn't see the Perisic coming across him, I thought he was outstanding, made lots of runs. His speed to get in behind Trippier. I thought Trippier played well for much of the game. In the first half, he was free to run forward. He wasn't taken back so much by Perisic. I thought Maguire did OK, but Stones, when you want somebody to dominate the ball from the back, which he's meant to be doing, when they were struggling, he couldn't get in the game. Dele Alli didn't play well enough, and he had too much work to do at times, trying to get in between 3 players. Sterling was a threat in behind. Young, I didn't think had his best game. Rebic gave him a few problems, and Lingard again had too much to do in that midfield area.
Stones at fault for the Mandzukic goal?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, he just didn't read the danger, he was static, and then he tried to blame everybody else, which is something I don't like defenders doing. Take responsibility. He was too slow, he didn't see Mandzukic in behind him. Not good enough.
What happened to Harry Kane today, Craig?
Well, Vida and Lovren snuffed him out with Brozovic in front, but I tell you what, when you're getting 60-yard balls pumped up to you all the time, it's not easy. But even when he was at his feet, he didn't look comfortable, he didn't look his normal sharp self. I thought Sterling looked the sharper of the two running in behind. Yes, in the final third sometimes he can be frustrating, but at least it looks like something might happen.
Yeah.
I thought Ali was poor again and hasn't looked fit. Lingard couldn't get in the game, and the two of them, they're not two players that are going to take a game by the scruff of the neck. Unlike what Croatia have got, they've got 3 midfielders in there. One Brozovic from Inter Milan, who's a natural defensive midfielder. Then you've got Rakitic and Modric, who will take a game at the very highest level by the scruff of the neck.
You have to feel a little bit sorry for both those, Dele Alli and Lingard, because they had a really difficult job when they didn't have possession, because they was the one thing when you're playing with a 3 at the back, you're playing with 2 wing backs, you're playing with 2 up front, it means any switch of play, your wide midfield players, which Dele Alli was one and Lingard was the other, are caught in between everybody. They have to go out, and Vasalko was coming forward, Dele Alli has to get out there. As soon as he gets out, they play inside. Now he has to get back in alongside Modric and try and deal with that. He then has to go in behind his fullback. He was doing a lot of running without any success whatsoever, and he was expected to make forward runs as well. And the same with Jesse Lingard on the other side. It was almost impossible job, and that's why Gareth Southgate had to change the tactics before they got the equaliser, because it was obvious at some point a cross was going to come in the box because they had so much freedom down there.
But then, Robbo, you've got Young and Trippier on either side as well.
But they've got their 2 wingers there.
You've got, and all they did is push right back onto the midfield. Mandzukic playing up front on his own, a back 3, seemingly taking care of the one. To not be able to find any kind of possession, any kind of passing lane through midfield, I thought was just poor from England throughout. Nobody was able to get on the ball in any kind of area, just to string a couple of passes.
I would say they bottled it. Some of the England players bottled it. With the players at the back, I'm going to excuse Harry Maguire, because I thought he did want to try and play forward. The midfield players, rather than getting on the half turn, so when the ball's coming into them, they can play it into the front. So they're now passing into Harry Kane and Raheem Sterling from 15, 20 yards away. They're going back to the centre half. John Stones doesn't want to play it forward, so he goes back to the goalkeeper. You deal with it, and Jordan Pickford has to go.
But wait, this was supposed to be different, wasn't it? It wasn't supposed to be pressure. Everyone was supposed to be having fun. It was supposed to be more relaxed.
They got pressurised when they went 1-0 up. Suddenly, that fear factor came into their game, which
but
it shouldn't
when
have done.
You're 1-0 up, surely that's
I know.
when it should be.
They needed that second goal, and suddenly when Croatia started to dominate the game, and then the midfield started to run it, then the switches of play happened. That's when Gareth Southgate, in my view, had to just tweak the system. He could have put Raheem Sterling slightly out to one side and grab one of the other midfield players to tuck in. Then they wouldn't have been able to switch the play. Raheem Sterling's got the pace and energy to go and support Harry Kane from a wider position. He didn't make that change, and I felt really sorry for Dele Alli. He didn't play well enough. I felt sorry for Lingard. He didn't play well enough, but he had no chance to play well.
So then, Croatia have played more football than anybody else going into this final, and then some. As we mentioned before, they played a whole match. Pretty much more than France, obviously going into extra time against Denmark, Russia and England. Denmark, Russia going to pens. That Mandzukic goal seeing them through to the final.
Yes, they're knackered.
Yes, but
they're walking. Well, they look not bad after the Denmark 120 minutes plus penalties, but after the Russia, 120 penalties. There was like bodies lying around, and Subasic was injured, the goalkeeper. Vasalko, the fullback, was injured. Both made the game. They've shoveled another 100.
Goal scorer Mandzukic, he was bobbling around, wasn't he, at the end of the last game?
You made the point tactically that they worked it today so they didn't have to run around.
That wasn't the... whenever you're working the game tactically, you're hoping that you can close people down without having to do quite so much running, so the game's not quite so open. And I thought the coach did that well. He left his 2 wide players up front.
So can you do that against France?
I think he would... Yeah, I think he can still stick with the shape. He can still cause them problems by switching the play because Matuidi wants to be narrow, Griezmann won't play wide, so that's their out ball. They switch a play to Vasalko, and they get tight in midfield. I think they can do the same job. It's going to be more difficult for them because they're going to be playing against better players. They're playing against Mbappe, who's got great pace to come in off the touchline. I mean, Giroud, I thought, was terrible in the last game, so he needs to play better for France to cause the 2 centre-backs, Vida and Lovren, problems. But I think they can still put in a very good performance.
But if Perisic wants to play, if Croatia and Perisic in particular want to take as many risks as they did today, and you know, with leaving Trippier to go forward sometimes, left him to go on to the fullback, and the hope that it would break down and you could fire it out there and he would get at them. He's going to leave Strinic one-on-one potentially with Mbappe, so they may have to just alter the risks that they take within the game. I don't think they'll change the shape. I don't think if the personnel are there, they'll do anything differently. They might juggle it a little bit within the game, which is what is the right thing to do, and is what England didn't do in this game. But it's going to be fascinating for them. Yes, they're going to be tired, but Jesus, if you can't get yourself ready for the World Cup final and have some energy, then you never will. So I think they'll be ready.
It's going to be a totally different test, obviously, with Mbappe and his pace. You have to have a plan for him at the very least. And then Paul Pogba, who I think has grown during the course of this tournament. France have a passer coming out to midfield. We also saw France do a very good job against very good wingers playing for Belgium. They at times sat a little bit more. Maybe that will allow the likes of Modric and Rakitic to maybe get on the ball a little bit more than they expected, or they expect to in a World Cup final. You do that at your peril. I think this is very finely poised, and so it should be in a World Cup final.
It's going to extra time, isn't it?
Of course, that's how Croatia like it.
Absolutely.
They like it to go to extra time because that's where
they'll score an own goal in the 90th minute. Come on, we'll have more of this. So France to win?
Yeah, I think France win this.
Yeah?
Yeah, Pogba against Modric, a great battle, but Pogba to come out on top.
Welcome into extra time. Thank you very much, as always, for your tweets.
Hold on. How did you cope with...
Not very well. I'm not...
No, with the opening goal.
I had a bit of an issue because I celebrated and then spilt some tea next to me that our producer
I think we can have a look. Yeah, look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah! Come on! Come on! Get it!
You're going to see Pete's
Oh, Dan.
Why? I didn't see the tea, obviously.
Yeah, he was only holding there all game.
Oh, you were very aggressive, Dan, did you?
Do you remember that film, The Hills Have Eyes?
No.
Oh, that's an older one. Your eyes were like...
I went out with you the other night and you acted a bit like that the other night when you were on...
You looked as if you were ill during the second half. You were just laid back you were like that on the sofa.
I know, but I'm a fan. That's all right. I think that's okay to be a fan.
You were speaking to him and he was like this, weren't you? You were speaking to him and he was going... You're right.
He wouldn't talk to anybody.
Well, that's because he was going, what's wrong with you? Why are you getting excited?
If you sit there and just rocket back coming far.
You blamed the ref for every decision that went against England. It was the referee's fault. He shouldn't be giving free kicks.
I can be a punter, though. I think that's all right. I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of.
And animals, you know, you're all down that route.
Scored from 2 lucky set pieces.
Yeah, that's what he said as well.
I imagine if it was Trinidad, Shaq, you would be...
No, not at all.
Shaq, didn't you... What's the story of you calling a game on ESPN once involving Trinidad?
Yeah. It's quite a game.
I heard about this.
Yeah, played in the US.
Yeah.
3-0 down. I couldn't talk. The producers in me here, Shaq, you've got to say something. I'm like, no. I've got nothing to say. So, the last 20 minutes of the game, I'm the
That was one of your best commentaries.
Yeah, I got my highest marks. I said nothing for 20 minutes as the colour commentator.
And we were talking before rugby, you get quite passionate about.
Yeah.
You like rugby. Is there anything that would get you that get passionate? Like
that?
golf, Ryder Cup, anything like that would get you going? Or maybe has in the past?
Not like that.
No. Not off your
That's
Would you get frustrated if England or Europe lost the Ryder Cup or something? Or somebody you wanted to win the Open, you'd be a bit down when they lost?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have mad eyes like that.
He did have mad eyes. He did have mad eyes.
I wouldn't
No,
have,
they're back now, don't worry.
I wouldn't have the mad eyes. I
Mad
saw, I
eyes,
saw
bro.
them on Sunday
But
night.
that's when they scored. What do you think he was like when they conceded?
There was the odd one just popped up from the quiet.
There he is. Look.
Look at but look at the impression. Look at the impression. Look at it. Get it. Look at it.
Blinking, look! Oh.
Staring down the telly. Hey, he's staring at the telly. Right.
Oh, it's okay. You're a fan. I don't mind that.
There was the odd. Do you know when
That's
England?
okay.
Do you know when England started losing control of the game? You're right. It was very quiet.
Yeah.
And then the odd. Come on, England!
Every free kick. Here's our chance.
There were a couple where the referee gave goal kick instead of corner. That's a corner!
I know.
That's a corner!
It is, yeah. Hey,
Anyway,
that's all right. It's
That was the
England. That's
highlight.
okay.
That was so good.
World Cup.
Right.
Right.
And then we know who we blame for all this.
Is football coming home?
Macca. Blooming Macca. Looks like the original knockout predictions of Steve McManaman are coming true.
What's his name?
McManaman. So I'm going to say I'm so angry with him. Does Croatia have any chance versus this informed France team? Macca got it spot on.
Yeah, they had
Did, didn't
Right.
They had no
right
chance
there.
against England, according to us, 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, you were the one who said that.
No. We all did.
we? We all said.
Well, all right.
I'm just saying. That's what.
It's been a hard tournament to predict. It is.
Yeah, no, it has though.
It has.
If you had a France-Croatia final, give yourself a pat on the back. Like Robbo moving from Arsenal to West Ham.
Yeah.
You go down that route.
If Modric leads Croatia to victory in the final, will he be the favourite for the Ballon d'Or?
Ballon d'Or. He could be the player of the
very good
tournament.
shot.
I'm not sure about the Ballon
Won
d'Or.
the Champions
Champions League.
Yeah.
Lead Croatia to the World Cup.
You're
final.
selling it, Dan. You're selling him.
Well, we've seen it happen in the past.
This is what he's doing. He's teeing it up for the World Cup to finish when we haven't got a lot to talk about.
I don't know, well, we've got all those transfers.
Ballon
It's
d'Or,
gonna be-
yeah.
Ballon-
Modric could certainly be. He's been outstanding, hasn't he, Daniel?
He's been, but he was fantastic. When we were in, where were we? Where was the final? I can't remember now.
Ukraine.
Ukraine, wasn't it?
He was, the,
yeah.
he was the best player on the field again.
Well, put it one way. Luka Modric that's the last thing in his mind.
Right.
Well, let's win the World Cup, lads, so I can win the Ballon d'Or.
Yeah.
You saying it's on other players' minds, like Ronaldo and Messi and Neymar.
Never said that at all.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at your
Pronunciation?
Luka Modric. Your
Impression.
Yeah, your impression.
If he wins it, should he get it?
I'm voting for him.
Yeah.
Don't have a vote, but I would if I
you?
did. No.
Who has a vote for Trinidad?
I don't know.
Oh, shank.
I thought you were on some big committee that you had full say on everything. You could do what you like. If you want somebody to win the Ballon d'Or, you can do it.
That's the expenses.
The only thing Shaq has got full autonomy on is holidays.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Goodness
Heard that.
me. Yeah, you're on holiday for a while,
It's
Shaq.
about
I
to
feel
say,
like
I haven't been
Where
on
is your
holiday
next
forever.
holiday?
I haven't been on holiday for.
Where's your next one though?
I don't know.
It'll be a big.
You haven't
It'll be a
got one
biggie.
It'll be a biggie.
It'll be a biggie. Trust me.
The whole shebang, the whole Hislop crew.
Any more questions?
I can't afford the
Champions League final. Oh, goodness. It's been emotional. Champions League final, now World Cup final. Dejan Lovren, best defender in the world. If only Steve Nicol were on today to support this claim.
I don't think you would.
He played quite well today, and he's been good on occasions, but he's still not a top-class defender. I wouldn't say. He makes too many mistakes. He's decent in the
Did all right
hasn't
today,
got
though,
great.
didn't
He did all right today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't
Yeah.
give Kane a kick. Did well enough.
That's it. We are done. ESPN FC, despite the fact that England
Come
are
and get
out.
some rest, Dan. You need a little rest.
Oh, mad eyes.
Oh, dear, I
You
didn't like
need a
those
little
eyes.
massage from
Those-
your wife when you get home. That's what you need. Just
all right, Robert.
calm you down.
Okay. Oh, let's have one more look.
One more.
Let's have one more look. Yes!
Come on!
What's your eyes?
Look how angry.
Look, Rubble got a splash and all.
Happy.
Look, even Rubble on his waistcoat. And
People ask me why those Wayne Rooney pictures. Robbo insists that Wayne Rooney is everywhere.
You know that's not true. That was done for seven.
Oh, we won't even mention your waistcoat.
Yeah, I've got the waistcoat in honour of Gareth Southgate. and Now I'm going to throw it away.
And you hammered him also.
Yeah, true.
We'll burn it tonight.
Yeah, I will do.
All right, I'll get my angry eyes out again. ESPN FC returns tomorrow. I'm going to have the day off tomorrow just to
Good,
relax.
good.
Are you here tomorrow, Shank?
No, I'm not.
No, Robbo's going to do it on his own. Why Arsene Wenger should be appointed the New England manager.